Helion Reach Academy hung in orbit, like a bright ring of metal and glass above the quiet blue planet below. Every year, young cadets from many worlds came here to learn engineering, science, and teamwork. They came dreaming of glory of one day joining the great exploration fleets. But dreams often looked cleaner from far away. Up close, Helion Reach was full of stress, competition, pride, and silent battles for recognition. Lirathi of the Verit race stood near the large assignment board in Hall 9, her crystal-like fingers folded close to her chest. The hall buzzed with excitement. Cadets waited for their names to appear beside their partners for the final engineering trials. It was the most important task of the year, two students working together to build something powerful and safe enough to impress the Academy Council. Everyone expected the best students to choose the best partners. Nobody wanted to end up with someone who might slow them down. And everyone knew Lirathi's situation. Her body was different from most Verit. Her limbs were not as strong. Her movements were slower and sometimes shaky. Her internal crystalline network, which normally gave Verit physical steadiness, had formed with tiny fractures from birth. They were not dangerous, but they made tasks like heavy lifting, long walking, or fast movements very difficult for her. And while she was brilliant, more brilliant than almost anyone in her class, many cadets whispered that she was too fragile for a field project. She heard these whispers often. She tried to ignore them, but she was still young, and even a strong mind can feel lonely when surrounded by silent doubt. The board chimed. A long list of names appeared. Cadets rushed forward, pointing, laughing, clapping each other on the back. Lirathi waited until she could see clearly. Her glowing blue eyes scanned the screen. Her name appeared, alone. No partner. Again. Around her, a few cadets exchanged uncomfortable looks. Some lowered their voices, pretending they hadn't noticed. Others gave quick, forced smiles as if to say sorry, but continued on with their own partners without another thought. Lirathi drew a slow, quiet breath. She had prepared for this. She had told herself she would not be surprised if she ended up without a partner. But preparation did not stop the old, familiar sting. She turned away, deciding to find an instructor and ask what would happen next. Maybe they would assign her someone. Maybe she would work alone again. She had worked alone before, but she knew this final project required a second person. It was supposed to build trust and teamwork. Before she took her second step, she heard footsteps, quick, human footsteps, and a voice that sounded warm, confident, and without hesitation. Wait. Her name isn't supposed to be alone. The hall fell quiet for a moment. Lirathi turned and saw him. Marcus Hale, the new human cadet who had arrived from another academy only 3 months earlier. He was tall for a human, with short dark hair and a straightforward expression. He had gained a quiet reputation, someone who worked hard, never mocked anyone, and never backed down from helping others. Marcus walked right up to the assignment board. "My name isn't listed either," he said, his voice carrying clearly across the hall. "I was marked as unassigned because of the transfer. So, if she needs a partner, I volunteer." A few cadets exchanged surprised whispers. "He wants to work with her?" Someone murmured. "Maybe he doesn't know. Humans don't see the obvious sometimes." But Marcus wasn't listening to them. He wasn't even looking at them. His eyes were only on Liratha. And then he said something simple. Something that made the room go silent in a completely different way. "I'll stand with you." Lirathi stared at him. She felt something strange rise inside her chest, a mixture of hope and confusion. She had expected pity from others, not sincerity. She searched his face for any sign of discomfort or hidden motive. She found none. "But you do not know me," she said softly. "I know enough," Marcus replied. "You're smart, hard-working, and I'm not afraid of making adjustments if we need them. Every team works differently." His tone was calm, as if the decision was already final. Instructor Relin, who had overheard, stepped forward. He looked at Marcus, then at Lirathi. and sighed not in annoyance, but in an almost surprised relief. "If both cadets agree," Relin said, "then it is permitted." The instructor touched his tablet. A small chime confirmed the adjustment. Partnership confirmed. Liratha Verret plus Marcus Hale. Marcus smiled. "There. We're a team." Around them, the crowd slowly broke apart. Other cadets returned to their groups. A few looked uneasy. Some looked curious. One or two looked annoyed, though they tried to hide it. But most simply accepted the change and moved on with their own plans. Liratha lowered her eyes for a moment, trying to understand what she felt. She was grateful. Yes, but also cautious. Many past partners had shown kindness at first, but then lost patience once her physical limitations created delays or complications. They would grow frustrated. They would tell her she was slowing them down. They would leave the work to her mind but not her hands, making her feel like a background tool rather than a partner. So she looked back up at Marcus and asked the question she feared to ask. "Are you sure? You do not know how difficult working with me may be." Marcus shrugged slightly. "Then I'll learn, and we'll figure it out together." There it was, that human stubbornness she had heard rumors about. But in his voice, it didn't sound arrogant. It sounded steady, honest. Liratha nodded slowly, crystal-like hair catching the hall light. "Very well. Then I accept." Marcus grinned. "Great. First step, let's actually talk about what project we want to build. Everyone's going for easy stuff. Maybe we should try something big." She blinked. "Big?" "Yeah," Marcus said. "Something like a micro-reactor model, or a portable energy core." Her eyes widened. That had been her secret dream project since the first month of the academy. She had never dared suggest it to anyone. "How did you?" she started. "You're always reading reactor design notes," Marcus said simply. "I notice things." Liratha felt heat rise along her crystalline cheeks, her species version of a blush. "Most would say that is too ambitious," she said. "Then we'll prove them wrong," Marcus replied cheerfully. His confidence almost startled her. Humans were surprisingly bold. They left the hall together, walking side by side. Marcus matched his pace to hers without being asked. He didn't rush. He didn't make her feel slow. He simply adjusted naturally, as if he had been doing it all his life. As they walked through the academy corridors, Liratha studied him carefully. He wasn't extraordinary in physical skill or in top grades. He wasn't the most popular or the flashiest. But he carried something many cadets lacked, a steady, loyal strength. The kind that didn't need to be loud, to be real. Perhaps, she thought, she had been wrong to assume no one would choose her. Perhaps this human saw something she had almost stopped hoping for. Not her limitations, but her potential. When they reached the engineering bay, Marcus tapped the door panel. "Ready?" he asked. Liratha hesitated one last time. "Marcus, if I slow you down, if the work becomes too much." He held up a hand to stop her gently. "Then, we adjust. We don't quit. Not unless we decide to. As a team." The words were simple, but to Liratha, they felt like a promise stronger than metal. The door opened. The bright lights of the bay reflected off Liratha's crystal-lined skin as she stepped forward. Marcus walked beside her, giving a short nod, as if to say, "Let's begin." And just like that, something quietly historic happened at Helion Reach Academy. For the first time in her life, Liratha had a partner who chose her not in pity, not in obligation, but in genuine belief. And for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she truly belonged. The engineering bay of Helion Reach was a massive room filled with humming machines, bright holograms, and rows of workstations. Here, cadets tested their ideas, built their projects, and sometimes broke a few things along the way. For most students, it was a place of excitement. For Lirathe, it had always been a place of silent pressure. But this time felt different. Marcus and Lirath stepped inside as an official team. They claimed a workstation in the corner, one that was quieter, with more space to move. Marcus had chosen it on purpose, because he noticed it would be easier for Lirathi to navigate without bumping into fast-moving cadets. The moment they sat down, Marcus opened a holographic notebook. "Okay," he said with a smile. "Let's design something amazing." Liratha blinked. "Already?" "Why wait?" Marcus laughed. "Let's start with your idea, the portable microreactor." She hesitated, her crystal blue eyes flickering with uncertainty. "It is difficult. Many have tried and failed. Even full engineering teams struggle with stable miniaturization." "Good," Marcus replied. "Then we aim high." Lirath felt something warm inside her chest. His confidence was different from the others. Most cadets acted confident to impress people. Marcus acted confident to inspire people. She activated a holographic projection. A glowing blue diagram spun above their workstation, showing the rough outline of a small, compact energy core. "This is the concept," Lirathi said. "A reactor the size of a backpack. Safe, portable, and efficient." Marcus whistled. "Beautiful." "It is not beautiful yet," Lirath corrected softly. "It is only theory." "Then let's turn theory into reality." The first tests. The first few days passed quickly. Lirathi explained the science behind the reactor, its energy loops, its pressure control chambers, and the resonance matrix that allowed it to operate safely. Marcus, on the other hand, focused on the physical design, building frames, adjusting connection points, and finding ways to reduce weight. They worked well together. But the academy did not make it easy. Sometimes the metal pieces were too heavy for Lirathe to lift. Marcus handled them without complaint. Sometimes Lirathi's limbs trembled during delicate tasks. Marcus adjusted the tools, or offered to hold parts steady. Sometimes the work required speed, but Lirathi's body refused to move quickly. Marcus simply slowed his pace to match hers. Not once did he make her feel guilty. But others noticed. Whispers in the hall. On the 5th day, as Marcus and Lirathe were heading to the cafeteria, they overheard a group of cadets talking loudly. "Look at them," one cadet snorted. "The slow team. Working on a reactor. They'll never finish." Another laughed. "Marcus is wasting his time. He could have asked to be paired with anyone else." A third voice said, "He probably feels sorry for her. Humans like to play hero." Marcus stiffened. Lirathi lowered her head. She was used to these whispers. Marcus wasn't. But instead of getting angry, Marcus simply said quietly, "Ignore them. R1. "I am used to such talk," Lirathe replied calmly. "But you are human. Humans do not usually hear such things directly." Marcus shook his head. "It doesn't matter what they say. What matters is what we do." His words were simple but strong. Lirathe followed him, feeling calmer. Adjustments. Back in the engineering bay, Marcus had an idea. "Hey," he said. "I want to make our workstation better for both of us." "How?" Lirathe asked. He pointed around. "The tools are all made for people with strong hands, fast movement, and heavy lifting. Why don't we modify everything so you can use every tool your way?" Lirathe blinked. "Modify the tools? Why not?" Marcus grinned. "This is an engineering academy. We're supposed to innovate, right?" And so they did. Marcus shortened tool handles so Lirathe could grip them more easily. He created soft stabilizer pads to stop her tools from slipping if her hands trembled. He built a mechanical support arm that held parts in place so she did not have to strain her limbs. Soon, their workstation looked different from the others, not standard, not uniform, but efficient and comfortable. Lirathe was amazed. "No one has ever adjusted tools for me," she whispered. "A team should adapt to each other," Marcus said, "not the other way around." For the first time in her life, She felt like she truly belonged somewhere. Skeptics in power. Not everyone approved of their progress. One afternoon, Instructor Pellin visited their station. He was known for strict grading and even stricter opinions. He watched their holographic model with a frown. "A micro-reactor," he said sharply. "That is a difficult project. Perhaps too difficult for your pairing." Lirathy stiffened at the implied insult. Marcus stepped forward. "With respect, sir, we can handle it." Pellin raised an eyebrow. "Confidence is not capability. Cadet Hale." He turned to Lirathy. "And you, Cadet Lirathy, you are brilliant. But your physical limits will slow this project. Perhaps consider something simpler. Time." Lirathy opened her mouth but closed it again. She didn't know what to say. Marcus answered for both of them. "We already decided. This project is ours." Pellin studied Marcus for a long moment. Then he sighed. "Very well. But the Academy will not adjust the deadline or requirements for you." "We don't need adjustments," Marcus said. But after Pellin walked away, Lirathy's hands trembled slightly. "He is right," she whispered. "My body does slow us down." Marcus gently placed a hand on the workstation. Not touching her, just near. Offering quiet support. "You aren't slowing us down," he said. "We're moving at our pace. That's what matters." His words worked like sunlight breaking through a cloud. Sabotage. By the third week, their reactor prototype was taking shape. It wasn't perfect, but it was stable enough to run basic tests. This made some cadets jealous. One evening, after Marcus had returned from gathering materials, he found Lirathy staring at their workstation in silence. The holographic model was corrupted. Their stabilizer arm had been bent out of shape. One of the energy coils they had built was missing. Someone had sabotaged them. Marcus felt anger rise, but Lirathy touched his arm gently. "No," she said softly. "Do not confront anyone. We cannot prove who did it. But we will fix it," she said. "That is enough." Marcus looked at the damaged parts again. "This is hours of work." "Then we will work for more hours," Lirathy replied. "A true team does not stop." Her voice was steady, strong. Marcus realized something important. Lirathy might have a fragile body, but she had a spirit stronger than steel. They spent the night repairing everything. It was slow, tiring work, but they refused to give up. By dawn, the stabilizer arm was fixed, the model restored, and a new coil built from scratch. When the bay lights warmed to life, Lirathy looked at their restored project and smiled softly. "We rebuilt it even better." Marcus grinned. "We did." Growing trust. As the days passed, their partnership grew stronger. Lirathy learned to trust Marcus completely. And Marcus learned the rhythm of Lirathy's abilities when she needed rest, when she needed time, and when her mind sparked with genius. They were opposites in many ways. Marcus was fast when she was slow. She was precise when he was rough. He lifted heavy parts. She guided delicate calibrations. Together, they balanced, like two sides of the same design. And slowly, rumors around the Academy began to change. "She's smarter than we thought. Marcus is actually helping her shine. Their reactor, it might actually work." Some cadets still doubted them. Some waited for them to fail. But others began watching with respect rather than pity. A quiet moment. One evening after a long day, Marcus and Lirathy stepped out onto one of the Academy's transparent observation bridges. Stars glowed around them. Below, the blue planet turned slowly. "It is beautiful," Lirathy whispered. "Yeah," Marcus said. "Makes everything feel small." Lirathy glanced at him. "Marcus, why did you choose to work with me?" "Marcus," he shrugged. "Because you're worth standing with." She looked away, her crystal hair shimmering. "No one has ever said that. Then they haven't been paying attention, Marcus replied. Lirathe felt a calm warmth settle in her chest. She didn't speak for a long moment. She didn't need to. They simply stood there, two outsiders who had found strength in each other. And though they didn't know it yet, their greatest challenge and their greatest test was waiting just ahead. Because soon, the Academy would face a catastrophe. And only the unlikely team of Marcus and Lirathe would be able to stop it. The morning began like any other, at Helion Reach Academy. Cadets hurried through the glass corridors, carrying toolkits, tablets, and half-finished projects. Lirathe and Marcus walked together toward the engineering bay, excited to run their first full stability test on the latest version of their micro-reactor. But long before they reached their workstation, Lirathe stopped. She froze in the hallway, her crystal-like hair catching the bright lights above. Her eyes narrowed, and her fingers twitched in a slow, rhythmic motion. Marcus looked at her with concern. Lirathe? What's wrong? Marcus. She didn't answer at first. She simply listened. To her, the entire academy had its own soft hum vibrations carried through metal, air, and crystalline structures. Verit's senses were different from human ones. They could pick up resonance patterns, harmonic frequencies, and tiny shifts that others couldn't detect at all. The sound is wrong, Lirathe whispered. Very wrong. Marcus scanned the hallway. Nothing looked unusual. What do you hear? A resonance spike. No, several spikes. Lirathe pressed one glowing hand against the wall. Something in the main reactor ring is out of balance. Marcus's eyebrows lifted. You mean the Academy's fusion training ring? The fusion. The. Yes, she said, her voice tight. On deck. 12. Marcus frowned. Deck 12 was where the Academy stored its largest reactor cores and supervised high-level energy simulations. If something went wrong there, it could cause serious damage, not an explosion, but a dangerous shutdown, system collapse, or evacuation. We should tell someone, Marcus said. Lirathe shook her head. There is no time. Her voice trembled, not from fear but urgency. I can hear it. The harmonics are rising fast. Something is overheating. If we wait for the instructors to reach Deck 12, the system may lock down. If the system locks down while the resonance is unstable, Marcus understood. Lockdowns were automatic safety measures, but sometimes they created new risks, trapping pressure or blocking access to controls needed to fix a problem. Then we go, Marcus said. Lirathe met his eyes. You do not have to follow me. He gave her a small, certain smile. I said I would stand with you. That wasn't temporary. For a moment, Lirathe said nothing. She simply breathed in deeply and nodded. Then, follow me, quickly. Racing to Deck 12. They hurried through the wide academy corridors, passing confused cadets and curious instructors. Lirathe moved as fast as her body allowed. Even though she pushed herself harder than normal, she still couldn't match Marcus's speed. Marcus adjusted without comment, slowing just enough to stay by her side. Tell me what you're hearing, Marcus said as they ran. The coolant valves are not opening correctly, Lirathe explained, her breath steady but anxious. The reactor is not in danger of exploding, but the internal temperature is rising too quickly. If we do not release the pressure and redirect the energy flow, the entire deck will go into emergency lockdown. And that's bad? Yes, Lirathe said. Locked controls cannot redirect the energy. The system will freeze in the wrong configuration. Marcus nodded. Got it. So we fix it before that happens. They reached the lift. Marcus quickly tapped the controls. Deck 12. Now. The lift shot upward. Lirathe leaned against the wall, closing her eyes. She listened closely to the vibrations that traveled through the lift's floor. It is accelerating faster, she murmured. How much time do we have? Maybe minutes. Maybe less. Marcus took a deep breath. We'll make it, When the lift doors opened, a loud alarm echoed down the corridor. Marcus looked around. This is worse than I expected. Lyrath grabbed his arm not forcefully, but with urgency. The source is near the coolant regulation chamber. Lead the way. Inside the reactor deck, the door to the coolant chamber slid open, releasing a wave of warm, vibrating air. It wasn't dangerously hot, but the temperature was certainly higher than normal. Panels flickered. Warning lights blinked along the walls. The central control panel showed a rising temperature curve too steep, too fast. Marcus ran to the auxiliary console. I'll check the coolant lines. But before he could touch the screen, Lyrath spoke sharply. No. The resonance is shifting again. If you adjust that valve now, it will worsen the imbalance. Marcus stepped back immediately. Then tell me what to do. Lyrath moved slowly toward the core's chamber. Her limbs trembled not from weakness this time, but from the intense harmonic vibrations echoing through the floor and walls. She placed her hand against a support column. The coolant feed is blocked by a misaligned pressure gate. We must open it manually. Too plain. Manually? Marcus repeated. Where? She pointed to a maintenance hatch near the base of the chamber. Marcus knelt and opened the hatch. A narrow tunnel led to a mechanical control wheel. It wasn't dangerous, but it was small and hard to reach. I can do it, Marcus said, ducking halfway inside. No, Lyrath said firmly. Marcus paused. Why not? The harmonics. I can hear exactly how far to turn, she explained. Too much force will break the gate. Too little will not open it. Marcus blinked. You can hear that? Yes, Lyrath said softly. My senses make me slow for most tasks, but perfect for this one. Marcus moved aside without hesitation. Then go. Lyrath crawled toward the narrow hatch. Her movements were slow and careful, each one measured. Marcus supported her by guiding her feet and steadying her when she wobbled. Inside the tunnel, the harmonic sound grew louder. To Lyrath, it felt like standing inside a giant, trembling instrument. She touched the control wheel with her crystal fingers. Marcus called from behind her. Tell me what's happening. The pressure gate is stuck, Lyrath whispered. I can feel the tension. It is too tight. Can you turn it? I can, but only a little. The resonance pattern shows where the friction is highest. She turned the wheel a fraction. A soft hum changed pitch. That's good, she said. Just a little more. Another turn. The lights overhead flickered. The temperature curve is slowing, Marcus shouted from the console. Lyrath exhaled slowly. Sweat glistened on her forehead as she tightened her grip. One more adjustment. She turned the wheel gently. A low metallic click echoed through the chamber. The resonance inside the walls shifted, no longer sharp and dangerous, but smoother. Calmer. Almost musical. It is open, Lyrath whispered. Marcus looked at the main display. Coolant flow restored. Pressure stabilizing. Lyrath slowly backed out of the tunnel. Marcus helped her stand. Her limbs trembled from effort. You did it, Marcus said softly. No, Lyrath corrected, breathing hard. We did it. But it was not over yet. Just as they began to relax, the emergency lights turned from red to bright orange. A deep voice sounded from the overhead speakers. Warning. Energy routing imbalance detected in auxiliary chamber. Marcus groaned. Seriously? There's more? Lyrath nodded weakly. The imbalance was not fully cancelled. There is a secondary resonance near the energy redirection panel. Marcus scanned the room. Where is it? Lyrath pointed to a walkway above them, a narrow bridge hanging over a set of glowing pipes. Marcus hit the stair controls. The stairs extended slowly, clanking open. You stay here, Marcus said. No, Lyrath said quietly. The harmonics, they are too complex. Only I can interpret them. Marcus looked hesitant. The walkway was safe, but high and narrow. Not dangerous, but difficult for someone with Lirathi's physical challenges. "I don't want you getting hurt," Marcus said. Lirathi raised her chin. "I am the only one who can hear the fault clearly." Marcus took a breath. "Okay. But I'm coming with you. They climbed the stairs slowly. Marcus stayed just behind Lirathi, ready to steady her if she slipped. She moved carefully, gripping the railing, focusing on the vibrations under her feet. At the top, she knelt beside the energy redirection panel. "The energy is bouncing between two conduits," she said softly. "We must reroute it." "Tell me what to press," Marcus replied. Lirathi studied the vibrating lights and listened carefully. "Press the third switch, slowly." He did. The lights shifted. "Now hold the second switch until the hum lowers." Marcus held it. The hum softened. "Now together," Lirathi whispered. "Press the first and fourth at the same time." Marcus placed his hand on the first switch. Lirathi reached for the fourth, her hand trembling slightly. Marcus moved closer and steadied her wrist. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded. 3, 2, 1. They pressed the switches. The humming dropped into a smooth, calm tone. The warning lights turned green, and the entire chamber exhaled, as if relieved. A quiet victory. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Lirath leaned against the railing, breathing deeply. Marcus stood beside her, watching the displays stabilize. "We did it," he said at last. Lirathi closed her eyes. "Because you trusted me." Marcus smiled. "Of course I did." When they returned to the main corridor, the alarms had stopped. Instructors and cadets looked around in confusion, trying to understand what had happened. But only two people knew. Marcus and Lirathi had prevented a full reactor shutdown and possibly a dangerous system collapse. And though they didn't seek attention, their actions would soon change everything. By the next morning, whispers filled every hallway. Cadets spoke in low, excited voices. Instructors checked the logs again and again, trying to understand how the reactor on Deck 12 had stabilized so suddenly. One name kept appearing in conversations. Two names, actually. Lirathi Verret, Marcus Hale. Students who once ignored Lirath now stared at her with wide, curious eyes. Some whispered admiration. Others whispered disbelief. A few whispered apologies that they didn't have the courage to say out loud. But Lirathi didn't pay attention to the whispers. She sat quietly in the engineering bay, adjusting the final components of their reactor project. Her movements were slow but steady. Her glowing crystal fingers set each piece with calm precision. After a moment, she sensed someone watching her and looked up. It was Marcus, leaning against the workstation with a small smile. "How are you feeling?" he asked gently. "Tired," she admitted, "but calm." "You should be proud," Marcus said. "You saved the academy yesterday." "We saved it," she corrected. Marcus chuckled. Okay, we saved it." Lirathi looked down again, focusing on a cooling plate. But inside, her thoughts were racing. No one had ever looked at her the way Marcus did, without pity, without doubt, without fear of inconvenience. For the first time, she felt like someone truly saw her whole self, not just her limits. She had always known her mind was strong. But now she knew something else. Her unique senses, her patience, her delicate touch. They were not weaknesses. They were strengths. And Marcus had helped her discover them. The council summons. Before they could return to their work, a soft mechanical chime echoed through the bay. A message appeared on their workstation screen. Cadets Marcus Hale and Lirath Verret. Report to Council Hall immediately. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Council Hall? That's serious. Lirathi nodded. Only high-level matters are discussed there. Guess we're high-level now, Marcus joked, trying to make her smile. And it worked. Lirathi's lips curved softly. They left the engineering bay and walked together to the council hall, a grand circular room lined with tall windows showing the endless stars outside. The council members, representing multiple species, sat at a long, curved table. As the doors opened, the room fell silent. Marcus and Lirathe stepped forward, unsure of what to expect. Councillor Yellen, an elderly human with silver hair, spoke first. Cadets Hale and Verrett. The incident on Deck 12 was dangerous, but logs show that without your actions, the situation could have escalated far worse. Councillor Dravik of the Torun race added, "You prevented a full system collapse, possibly more." Liratha felt her heart beat faster. Councillor Navarra, a tall Verrett woman with glowing purple eyes, leaned forward. "Cadet Lirathe, your use of resonance interpretation was remarkable. And Cadet Hale, your assistance and judgment were steady and reliable." Marcus bowed his head slightly. Liratha mirrored him. Then Councillor Yellen said something neither of them expected. "The Council wishes to officially recognize your partnership and your success." He pressed a panel on the table. A holographic crest appeared above them. The Academy's mark of distinction, normally reserved for outstanding teams and graduates. Lirathe stared at it in disbelief. Marcus whispered, "Whoa." Councillor Navarra continued, "Your teamwork shows what the Academy strives to promote: trust, adaptability, and respect for all abilities. You turned differences into strengths." Then she smiled. "From this day, you are a model partnership of Helion Reach." Lirathe felt her breath catch. Her eyes glowed faintly, not from shock, but from something warmer. Marcus placed a hand briefly on her shoulder, steady and proud. "Thank you, counselors," he said. "We'll continue doing our best." Lirathe nodded, unable to speak for a moment. The Academy reacts. After the ceremony, word spread even faster. Cadets who used to ignore Lirathe now approached her with hesitation. "Lirathe, can you explain resonance mapping to me? Can I see your modifications? They're impressive. You two really saved Deck 12? Marcus, Lirathe, are you presenting your reactor soon?" Lirathe was shy at first. She wasn't used to so much attention. But Marcus stayed beside her, answering questions, sharing credit, and encouraging her whenever she felt overwhelmed. Soon, admiration replaced doubt. Respect replaced whispers. Still, Marcus never let it change how they worked. "Let's focus on finishing the reactor," he said. "All this attention won't help us if the project isn't ready." Lirathe smiled. Agreed. Final presentation day. The day of the final engineering trials arrived. The presentation hall was huge, filled with cadets, instructors, and the entire Academy Council. Large screens displayed each team's project. Some teams created drones, others built navigation systems. A few made impressive energy devices. But when Marcus and Lirathe carried their compact micro-reactor onto the stage, the room fell completely silent. Their reactor was small, only the size of a backpack, but it glowed with soft blue light and precise craftsmanship. Every detail was balanced, carefully designed, and beautifully assembled. Lirathe and Marcus stood side by side as Lirathe began the explanation. "With this design," she said in her calm, gentle voice, "a single micro-reactor can power emergency shelters, research outposts, or small exploration vehicles. It is stable, efficient, and safe." Marcus added, "It uses Lirathe's resonance mapping to maintain perfect balance between energy loops, even in unstable environments." Marcus. The council members nodded, impressed. Then came the demonstration. Marcus activated the reactor's startup sequence. The lights brightened. Panels hummed. A soft wave of energy filled the hall. Calm, controlled, perfect. The crowd broke into applause. Some cadets looked amazed. Some looked embarrassed for ever doubting them. Others simply admired the teamwork and skill. And when the council announced that Marcus and Lirathe had earned the highest evaluation score, the hall erupted in cheers. Marcus pumped a fist in the air. Lirathe covered her mouth in shock. "We did it," Marcus laughed. Lirathe nodded slowly. "Yes, we did. A new beginning." Later that evening, after the celebration ended, Marcus and Lirathe stood again on the transparent bridge that looked out toward the stars, just as they had weeks earlier. But everything felt different now. The Academy no longer saw Lirathe as too fragile. They saw her as a brilliant cadet and a hero. And Marcus was no longer just the new human student. He was known for loyalty, courage, and partnership. The stars reflected gently off Lirathe's crystalline skin as she turned to Marcus. "Before you," she said softly, "no one wanted to work with me." Marcus smiled. Then they missed out. Lirathe laughed, a quiet, beautiful sound. "You gave me strength." "No," Marcus replied. "You always had strength. I just stood with you." She looked at him with gratitude. "Thank you, Marcus." He nodded. "Always." They stood there for a long time, watching the stars. Two cadets. Two outsiders. Two unlikely partners. Yet together, they had become something greater. Not because they were the fastest. Not because they were the strongest. But because they trusted each other and proved that a team is strongest when every member stands with the other. This was the story that would be told across the Academy for years. The story of how a human and a disabled alien girl built not just a reactor, but a bond, a partnership, and a story